I would consider these 5 windows to be my masterpiece so far. There's a lot of activity going on in each window, with the frog on the lily pad on the leftmost window, the wood duck in the next window, red-winged blackbird who's singing. You can see the swirls coming out of his beak. And the next window with the turtle on the twig right near the lily, the water lily, and the tree, cattails. And then the next window there's an owl near the top of the window and a birch tree, a yellow finch, and 2 evergreen trees. There are some violets on the bottom, and in the rightmost window there are more violets, yellow lady slippers, trillium, and some more birds. But one of the things that I really like about that part of the scene, the last 2 windows, just the way the glass looks like sand and then it goes into the green grass. So I thought that was kind of cool when that happened that way. I have lived here, my husband and I have lived here since 2002. Well, I grew up in Chicago and I moved to Minnesota when I was 24. And I came up to Minnesota because my aunt and uncle lived here. My uncle worked for General Mills and he was transferred from the Chicago area and moved up here, up to Minnetonka actually. And I always loved Minnesota because we would come, that was our vacation. I've been pursuing creative things a little bit longer than that, but really it's glass that I love, and I didn't know that until 2001. I took a class. I've always loved glass. I just love glass. My grandmother has had a lot of crystal, Czechoslovakian and Polish crystal, and she lived right upstairs, so I would see that sparkly stuff a lot, and I really liked it. And when I saw stained glass, I mean, really in person, I just fell in love with it, and I took a class and took another class and took another class, and just really just dove right in. I had my first commission, well, about a year after I started. So I moved up here, and a friend's sister had a problem window because it faced west, and it was an odd shape where they couldn't get some sort of curtains to cover it, and so they asked me if I would do something in stained glass to sort of dim the light of the hot summer sun. I talked to Greg Rosenberg, who's been a great inspiration to me, and I talked to him about doing that, and he really mentored me. He's a very acknowledged stained glass artist here in the area. He works out of the Franklin Art Center, and so I met him actually through Arts in the Park. We had gone there several times, several years, and every time I would just marvel at his work. And I approached him after we had moved up here, and I asked him if he taught, and he said, absolutely not, I never will. So I struck up a friendship with him, and he's done quite a bit of the larger drawings for me for the stained glass project. But yeah, it's been great through community ed. I've taught, and my husband helps me. I could not teach without him because it's pretty labor intensive because we have to take everything to the site. But my husband assists me, and we've taught through community ed both in Brainerd and in Pequot. We've also taught in Aiken and in Little Falls. So it's really a passion. It's addictive. And even students say that, once they see the process, learn the process, they're, just hooked. They love it. It's great. I go to arts and crafts shows. I've never had an exhibit like a professional exhibit, nor have I really sought that out. I guess I never maybe understood that process, or given time constraints, sometimes that can be pretty just time consuming. Well, I have been at Arts in the Park almost every year since 2003, and I've done other smaller shows in Hackensack and things down in the Twin Cities, in Ham Lake, Majestic Pines in Nisswa. And I'm a member at Jaques Art Center, and I'm a member at the Crossing Arts Alliance, and I have various art things, primarily fused pieces at both of those places. Plus I work full-time. I work for Crow Wing County Social Services. I had a lot of curiosity about it, and because I didn't know really, and you know, you put it in a kiln and you bake it. I didn't really have much of an idea of what it really entailed, and it's actually pretty technical if you want to advance beyond small things. So even making a bowl like this with, you know, I made that glass, so it wasn't a piece of glass that I just cut. I actually created the green and the dots and all of that. And this striped bowl, there are different techniques that are employed in using the glass the way that I've cut it here. But I create these this pattern strip out of a big block. This has been mostly used. The block was about this big, you know, to start with. And I layer. This before firing was about this tall. So I had many, many layers of glass, so you can see that there are different shapes of glass in there, and left some open spaces, and basically just kind of invented what I really wasn't sure exactly how it was going to move, but invented that and fired it, and then took a saw to it. I use a tile saw. You have to understand the way glass moves in order to know how thick to cut this. So it naturally seeks a depth of 1/4 of an inch if fired to full fusing, and you have 2 layers of glass of standard thickness. So you have to understand how it moves. You can't necessarily combine 2 different manufacturers' glass. They're tested to see how fast they expand, how fast the glass expands upon melting. And that little number that designates the speed is called the coefficient of expansion. And I primarily use 96 and 90. I think I started with the cutting piece. So for example, when I made this piece, this is multiple pieces of glass put together. So I had 2 pieces of glass in the center. The top one is this one with all these little black lines, and the bottom is clear glass, cut to the same size. And this is 2 layers also, black on top, clear on the bottom. This is my design, and that's just 1 slice that I took out of here that I had to cut to precisely 1/4 of an inch. These are stripes that I made, and I cut those at 1/4 of an inch and turned them. It was all 1/4 of an inch from side to side, and I made it flat. It's fired and it comes out flat. And then another firing to curve it, and it's curved in a mold. So the molds are made of ceramic. They can't just be ceramic that you would buy at a greenware store. It has to be treated a certain way, and it has to have air holes in it and things like that. So you can't just use any old stuff. It has to be a mold that's made specifically for that purpose. It has served me well. These are all fusible, and remember we talked about the numbers, so these are all 96s. There's fusible glass in those 2 bins next to you, as well as there and behind you. So I have a pretty large selection of fusible glass, and we've acquired this over the years, and I admit it, I am guilty, I am very compulsive, but I love glass. And I know when I was first starting, it was hard to have a good enough selection of glass, and so I guess I have a good enough selection here. The first thing that comes to my mind is just to continue to learn more and continue to be able to experiment. I have aspirations to take many more classes. If I could take all the classes that I wanted, I would be busy from now till whenever. Particularly, there are a lot of really highly technical classes, and at Bullseye Glass in Portland, Oregon. And there's another place in Texas that I would like to do. I've also really seriously been thinking about applying for an artist's residency at the Corning Museum of Glass. I first started to consider it last year in about September, but October is their application deadline, and it's a really involved process which requires a very clear definition of what you're going to do, because you're I would really like to be an artist in residence at one of the schools. There's just something magical. Oh. It's great.